So, you want to hear a story, huh? One about treasure hunters. Have I got a story for you, Pandora?
Long before Fortnite exploded onto the scene and well before Destiny coined the term shared world shooter, one game kicked open the door to chaotic co-op carnage and cel-shaded madness. Today, we're looking back at Borderlands, the original 2009 title that blended first-person gunplay with RPG mechanics and changed a genre forever. I'm sure there are people watching this that may have never played the Borderlands series before, but will still have heard of characters like Claptrap, Scooter, and Handsome Jack, and it all started right here with Borderlands 1. Borderlands was developed by Gearbox Software, who was best known at the time for the game Brothers in Arms, which released in 2005. Development on Borderlands began around the same time, and originally the game was much more grounded with realistic visuals, military tones, and a focus on gritty sci-fi.
Why have you come here? Only fools and criminals come to this planet. This is a dangerous place. If the bandits don't get you, the wildlife will. You won't last long here. Not without help. Not without guns. A hell of a lot of guns. Why have you come here? You're looking for the vault, aren't you? You won't find it. I'll tell you the same thing I told all those who came before you. It doesn't exist.
But something changed in 2007. Faced with a game that felt too generic, the team took a huge risk and scrapped the visual style, pivoting to a bold, comic book inspired aesthetic utilizing cel shading.
One day I was walking around the office and somebody said, "Dude, have you seen what Carl's been doing? What Carl's working on?" I'm like, "Isn't he working on what he's supposed to be working on?" And they're like, "Oh, okay, maybe you should talk to Brian." So I talked to Brian Martell, and he said, "Yeah, I've been trying to crack this nut on the style." So anyway, I made a deal with Brian where he was going to take his group of guys, and they were going to have 3 weeks to prove this concept, and then we were going to look at it and make a decision. And at the end of the 3 weeks, they set up the conference room. They're going to show me the demo of what they had worked on, and I remember going in there thinking, "Why did I make that deal?" Because we're so late. We're supposed to ship this game in like a year. I don't know what they're going to show me, but I know it's going to be a redo of the art direction. You can't redo the art direction a year before you're supposed to be on shelves. This is just insane. So I was sad that I even let them do it for 3 weeks, because I knew I was just going to have to go in the room and just whatever they were going to show me, I was going to have to tell them, "That's cool, but we can't do it. So sorry, I have to shoot your thing in the head and kill it." And Brian, I don't know what his deal was, but he left. He went to Minnesota. He was out of town. He just left. So he wasn't even there for the demo. He says, "Oh, I already had this thing, so I couldn't be there." I think he was afraid. But I went and saw it, and it was amazing. It was this look I'd never seen before. And it changed everything. It was that is what Borderlands is. And so now I had a problem because I loved it. But I knew we couldn't do it, right? Because how could you possibly do it? And fortunately, a couple of the producers, Stephen Palmer mostly, had kind of tracked that whole process, and he felt like he understood what it was going to take to do the whole game like that, and he had a production plan for it. And so I told him I love it. Can we do this? And Palmer said, "Yeah, we can do it."
That decision ended up being a stroke of genius, as it became one of the game's strongest identifying factors. The distinct visual flair combined with a Diablo-style loot system created a genre-defining formula and popularized the looter shooter, but that wasn't the game's only defining point. It also had a colorful cast of characters, as well as a solid storyline from start to pretty much the end, which we're going to go over in detail. So, if you're someone who has never played these games, here is your spoiler warning for the entire story of Borderlands 1, and for anyone who is familiar with Borderlands, let's take a trip down memory lane and back to the planet of Pandora. let's get into the story and everything that made this game the massive success it ended up being, and also answer one simple question. Is Borderlands as good as I remember, or do I look back on it with nostalgia-tinted goggles? Upon starting a new game, we are given a cutscene that introduces us to the world of Pandora and the tale of the vault hidden somewhere on the planet that contains vast riches and alien technology, which has given rise to people called Vault Hunters. People who grew up believing in the story of the vault and have made it their life's ambition to find and obtain whatever wealth the vault may hold.
Something of value here. Then perhaps I am a fool. But do not be fooled by what Pandora appears to be. There was a legend. Many people tell it. The legend of the vault. My father would always go on about the vault, even with his dying breath. Advanced alien technology. Infinite wealth. Fame. Power. Women. So you can understand why some little kiddos who hear the stories grow up to become vault hunters. Well, I have a story you may not believe, but I tell you it is true. The legend of the vault is real, and it is here on Pandora. And let's call it a guardian angel, appeared to guide the vault hunters to their prize. The tale begins right here on Pandora with the brave vault hunters, the guardian angel, and most importantly, me.
The game does a fantastic job of transitioning from the intro cutscene to one that's rendered in-game that introduces us to the 4 playable Vault Hunters, who each specialise in different weapons and each have a unique action skill, which we will get into a bit more detail on that a bit later on when I discuss the RPG elements. But we have Mordecai, who specialises in sniper rifles and pistols, and his action skill can send out his pet birdie, Bloodwing, to attack enemies. Roland, who specialises in assault rifles and shotguns, and his action skill places a turret that also doubles as cover and helps to mow down your enemies while giving you some protection. Brick, who specialises in explosive weapons and melee combat, and his action skill sends him into a berserker rage that increases his health regeneration and damage resistance while augmenting his melee attacks. And finally, Lilith, who specialises in using all elemental weapons, and her action skill is called Phase Walk, which turns her invisible while also greatly increasing her movement speed. Additionally, entering or exiting her Phase Walk causes an explosion that deals damage to enemies around her. That being said, just because a Vault Hunter specialises in certain weaponry, that doesn't lock you into only using those weapons throughout your playthrough, and you really can decide to use whatever you want and still have a ton of fun and success with whatever you decide to use. I decided to play Mordecai for this playthrough as he is the Vault Hunter I used for my first ever playthrough of Borderlands way back in the day, but he is also my least used Vault Hunter of the 4. Once you have selected your character, a figure who we can guess might be the mysterious guardian angel alluded to in the intro appears to us and confirms that the vault is real, while also seeming to know what's going to happen before it does. And she tells us that we are about to meet a funny little robot as we get off the bus, which is exactly what happens. This helps to build intrigue into what the vault is, who is this guardian angel, how does she know what she knows, and is she actually trustworthy? All questions for later. As I mentioned, upon leaving the bus, we do meet Claptrap just as Angel suggested. Once we've spoken to Claptrap, we can explore the small area the bus drops us off in. One thing that really struck me replaying the game that was just something I took for granted when I was younger was the sheer amount of environmental storytelling scattered throughout this first little area. It gives off very post-apocalyptic vibes. Everything is very run down, made out of scrap, yet it feels functional and makes the world feel lived in. You can find many company names scattered around, graffiti, a population sign that seems to have been recently altered, up or down, we will never know, but we can theorize. We can even find a vault symbol on the side of a building, which helps build on that intro cutscene as it shows us that the people of Pandora do at least share tall tales of the vault's existence, and as you travel across Pandora, you will find people who truly believe the vault exists, and others who swear it's just a fairy tale and will call us fools for even bothering to look for it. After taking in the sights, we need to register our DNA at the new U station, which yes, is just a little bit of fluff, but I do love when games make an effort to justify game mechanics with in-world explanations. Once that's done, we press on into the first town of the game, Firestone, and save one of the citizens, Zed, from the bandits that were casually minding their own business before we burst into town.
Attention, citizen of Firestone! There is no cause for alarm! This new visitor has resolved the problem!
Well, shoot, I thought I was a goner that time. Damn bandits won't leave us alone. Had to lock the place up tight. I'll let you in. Come on. Damn it. Blasted circuits are on the fritz again. Give it a go from the switch out there, would you? Thanks for opening her up again. The name's Zed. They don't let me cut on folks anymore since I lost my license, so...
Zed tells us, because we are new to the area, we are going to need to earn the locals' trust before they will give us any information or help us on our mission. So, we take on some odd jobs for Zed, mainly culling some of the local wildlife and repairing a medical vending machine, because apparently you can buy anything and everything from vending machines in the Borderlands universe. And after running these errands, we are told to go and meet another one of the locals, TK Baha.
You? One more step and it'll be your last. You should have seen the look on your face.
From the get-go, I loved TK, all the way back in the day and even to this day. His sense of humour is just something that really vibes with me. Someone who is blind pulling a gun on you, then cracking up saying, "You should have seen the look on your face," will never not be funny to me. So it's a good thing we are going to take care of his nine toes problem and nothing horrible will ever happen to him. That's called foreshadowing. Oh yeah, so, nine toes. Since we showed up and started a wholesale slaughter of the local bandits in the area, their leader, Nine Toes, isn't exactly happy with us, but that's alright because after running a couple more errands for TK, he tells us exactly where to find Mr. Toes' hideout. During these errands, Marcus, the bus driver from the beginning of the game, contacts us to tell us that thanks to our work, he can reopen his shop in Firestone, which gives us access to our very first weapon and also our first ammo vending machines. As I said, in this universe, everything comes from a vending machine apparently. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. We need to head to Skag Gully and Rambo our way into the least hidden hideout ever to complete our first truly good deed since arriving on Pandora. Murdering this poor fella because we were told to.
You woke the wrong dog. Ah, yeah!
After killing Nine Toes, our guardian angel appears before us once more, reaffirming that the vault is real and that we will find it, even though people may try to mislead us along the way.
That was the first step on your journey. You must listen. Who I am is not important. The first thing you must know, the vault is real. People will mislead you. They will try to use you, and you will not be swayed in your purpose. The vault is here, and we will find it. This world is full of dangers. Still yourself and go. I'll be watching.
We head back to TK and let him know that Spiky Nips is dead, to which he tells us that offing Nine Toes is going to piss off his boss, another bandit leader who goes by the name Sledge, but that's a tomorrow sort of problem. For now, we need to go and tell Zed how amazing we are.
Well, I'll be damned. You killed Nine Toes. You should get me a drink to celebrate sometime.
From this point on, the game becomes a lot more like a typical RPG, in which we will accept quests from whoever needs our help or post them on the bounty boards scattered throughout Pandora. We will level up, we will find loot, and overall become stronger whilst edging closer and closer to the goal at the end of the road of finding the vault. So this is a good point to stop and talk a little bit about the RPG mechanics blended into the game, mainly being the leveling system along with the skill trees each Vault Hunter possesses. While a lot of the power scaling does come from the weapons and equipment that we find during our adventure, we also gain experience and level up along the way. At level 5 we get our first talent point, which is used to unlock your character's action skill, and each additional level thereafter awards another talent point to spend progressing down the talent trees themselves. Each Vault Hunter has 3 skill trees that each focus on a different playstyle. As I was playing Mordecai, I'll use his as an example. His 3 skill trees are called Sniper, Rogue, and Gunslinger. His Rogue tree focuses on buffing and increasing the overall usefulness of his pet Bloodwing. His Gunslinger tree focuses on buffing pistols, and finally his Sniper tree buffs and empowers his melee capabilities, making him a close range menace. I'm shitting you, it obviously buffs everything sniper related. Skill trees being set up this way allow for each player to find a Vault Hunter and a playstyle that suits the way that they want to and like to play the game, which is top tier and well thought out design in my opinion. With that said, let's jump back into the story. At this point, we can accept one very notable side mission, which is to collect a series of audio logs, or echo logs, left by a Patricia Tannis that detail her time on Pandora along with her descent into madness. These logs are not only quite funny, but also detail vital history of Tannis' search for the vault, but also a little bit of why the planet is in the current state that it is in, with the bandits running rampant.
Patricia Tannis, Dull Scientific Advisor, Day 1 on planet Pandora. I have been assigned to this sector by my superiors to find evidence of abandoned alien technology, similar to that found by our competitor, the Atlas Company, in the ruins on Prometheus. Technology that many believe made them the superpower they are now. This kind of find seems astronomically improbable on a rock like this, but my benefactors believe in it enough to waste my considerable talents. I've only been here for 3 hours, and I already believe this planet will be the death of me. Scientists do not chase myths and legends.
Now, remember that Sledge guy I mentioned a little bit earlier? He has been trying to make it harder to travel throughout this area of Pandora by setting up roadblocks and flooding the area with his bandit goons. So, our next goal is to take down one of these roadblocks he has set up near Firestone to help free up travel between Firestone and the next town over, which is New Haven. Once we do, Zed tells us that as soon as the people of Firestone heard that the road was clear, a lot of people fled to the safety of New Haven, but he himself isn't going anywhere till he knows that Sledge has been dealt with. By now, we must at least be a blip on this Sledge guy's radar, so it's time to do something about him before he decides to do something about us. Zed tells us to go and meet up with a Shep Sanders, who is a local that is keeping an eye on the bandits and might be able to help us get into Sledge's base of operations, an abandoned mine site not too far from Firestone.
You'll find a fella named Shep near the crossroads on the way to the mine. Sledge skinned his entire family and built a tent out of them. Tough luck. But that Shep is a good kid. I'd appreciate you helping him.
So we go and meet up with Shep, who used to work in the power substation for the mines before the bandits took over. He tells us that there was a spare key to the mines kept at the substation, and if we can get our hands on it, we should be able to get back into the mines, but the bandits have moved in and infested the substation as well as the mine. So we do what we do best. We make a pot of tea, sit down to have a nice civil conversation about how the bandits are being a menace to society and that is no way to live their lives. They need to grow up and take some responsibility. And I'm joking. We kill them all, break into the substation, only to find that Sledge himself has left us a mocking note saying that he has taken and hidden the spare key elsewhere. Though, while we were here, we were able to restore the power to the citizens of the region while we were at it, so that's a positive at least. After striking out at the substation, we return to Shep, who luckily knows that Sledge has a smaller safe house to the north, so with any luck, we might be able to find the mine keys stashed there, though we are warned to be careful, as Sledge's right-hand man could be protecting the safe house. So off we go to do what we do best, and no, that's not making up a cup of tea. After fighting our way through Sledge's safe house and taking down this absolute behemoth of a dude, we do end up finding the, air quotes, keys to the mines. You'd think Shep would have warned us that there was a fingerprint scanner to get into the mine, and those keys we were looking for were actually just some poor dude's severed fingers, but no. Anywho, they are our fingers now, and off to finally face off against Sledge we go. Though before that, I wanted to quickly touch on how you're often rewarded for exploration, which is something that I love when it comes to open world and semi-open world games like Borderlands. No, you're not always going to find something, but a lot of times you will find weapons chests hidden throughout the world, and these chests are always exciting to open because they always have the chance of giving you a huge new upgrade. They could also give you absolute trash, but that's the nature of procedurally generated equipment in this game, which to me is another stroke of genius when it comes to the development of Borderlands, as it really does bolster the replayability of the game and can even change how you play at any given point during your playthrough if you get lucky and find a gun outside of the types that you're currently using, but is just too good not to use. The weapon system itself is something that I obviously haven't touched on yet, but it is integral to what makes Borderlands. So let's get sidetracked a little more, but for those of you who know Borderlands inside and out and don't want to hear about the weapon system, here's a timestamp to jump to skip this section, but for everybody else, let's talk about guns and how they are generated in Borderlands, because I find it super interesting, though I am going to have to simplify the process a lot, because you could make an hour-long video just on this topic. I'll admit, I'm certainly not a numbers guy, so I'm not going to fact check this, but according to Gearbox, there's over 17,750,000 possible gun combinations thanks to the procedural process used to generate guns in Borderlands. This staggering amount of available weapons is due to three main factors. The first being the weapon type, SMG, assault rifle, pistol, etc. The second being the different weapon manufacturers within the Borderlands universe, like Atlas, Jacobs, Hyperion. And finally, the third factor, and the one that leads to the most variance, is the weapon components. Most weapons can consist of up to 7 different components: stock, body, barrel, magazine, sight, accessory, and grip. Each of these components also have 5 possible variants that can randomly spawn in each slot, each with their own unique stats, from increased accuracy or fire rate to increased damage or adding an elemental damage type to the weapon. This system allows for so much variance even within weapons of the same type, and the more you play, the more you will start to recognize certain parts and either favor them or instantly discard a weapon because it doesn't have a specific part that you like. This sort of system also lends itself extremely well to farming weapons until you find ones that suit your playstyle and preferences, and due to the sheer amount of possibilities, it makes farming feel so much more rewarding when you finally find something that you're specifically looking for, and in my opinion, it is one of the best parts of the Borderlands franchise and what makes the game so incredibly fun and replayable. Anyway, jumping back to the story, as we approach the mine entrance hand in hand with our keys, get it? Because the keys are fingers? Anyway, our guardian angel friend appears to us again, which is nice, as I was starting to think she was starting to ghost us, but she tells us that everything we have done up until now has been child's play and that Sledge should not be taken lightly. We're apparently about to face our first true test.
Everything you've faced up until now has been simple. You're about to face a real challenge in Sledge. Do not underestimate him.
After making our way through the exterior of the mining complex and taking out a small army of bandits, we finally get to face off against the much built up Sledge, which admittedly is the first somewhat tricky fight that we will encounter, especially if you have to take him on solo, but more on this later on in the video. With Sledge's death, the bandits lose their leader, their structure, and ultimately their grip over the arid Badlands, which is the area of Pandora we have been roaming around, making it far easier and safer to travel between Firestone and New Haven. But without a leader, the bandits will also become unpredictable. After we kill Sledge, we also collect a strange artifact that he had in his possession, which our guardian angel friend tells us is part of the key used to open the vault.
I bet you would like to know what that is. The vault is real. What you are holding is the key that opens it. One part of it anyway.
As we go to leave the mine, we are contacted by a Commandant Steele who tells us that she works for the Atlas Corporation and knows that we recovered an artifact from Sledge and that all alien technology found on Pandora belongs to the Atlas Corporation, and threatens us, saying that if we do not hand it over, she will have to take it by force if necessary. We are also starting to make a name for ourselves in other parts of Pandora too, and Helena Pierce, who seems to be someone of some importance, wants us to make our way to New Haven to meet up with her, but to get to New Haven, we first have to make our way through the Dull Headlands. Before that though, I did want to quickly touch on the side quests one last time before I continue with the synopsis. The side quests in Borderlands do a fantastic job of making the world of Pandora feel lived in, even though early in the game you interact with very few of the locals. These side missions range from weird and wacky to serious and hard hitting. For example, in one we're asked to go and get TK Baha's prosthetic leg back from a skag that had bit it off. The same skag that was responsible for him needing a prosthetic in the first place, and yet in another one, we are asked to go and find a man named Bruce, who is the fiance of the quest giver and has gone missing after telling his bride-to-be that he had a plan to hit it big and make enough money to afford a flight off Pandora so they could start their new, happily married life on a nicer, much more civilized planet. We do find Bruce, but we are too late. He has already been killed. Reading through his diary, we find out that he was making cigars out of a weird plant that he had found and was trying to sell them to the local bandits, claiming they were made with prized off-world tobacco. After the first bandit tried one of these cigars, he dropped dead of massive internal bleeding. And as payback, the bandits forced Bruce to use his own product, which obviously had the same effect on him. This is a tragic story of a man who just wanted to give the love of his life a better life on another world and ended up throwing away his trying to make a quick buck when they could have happily lived together on Pandora. No, Pandora is not a nice planet to live on even at the best of times, but they still could have been happy together, but instead he lost his life and has left behind a heartbroken widow. Well, if the quest dialogue is anything to go by, not too heartbroken, but still. It's these sorts of stories that make Pandora really feel alive, that there are just everyday people trying their best to make the best of what they have on a very harsh planet, and it's this kind of storytelling that I really do appreciate. But that's enough about the side quests.
Day 43 on Pandora. At least I believe it to be the 43rd day I've been here. The moonlight cycles are difficult to get used to. The planet rotation day is over 90 hours long. The people that inhabit this salted dust ball are as ignorant as I've seen in this galaxy. When I attach scientific inquiry to something like the vault, I'm greeted with silly nursery rhymes and slack-jawed soliloquy about a man who knew a man who knew a man. They drift off into a stupor where I half imagine they're drunk or brain damaged and are unaware of my continued presence. If I believed in hell, I would contemplate how it compared to Pandora. Ironically, such a belief would align me with these Neanderthals.
Anyway, upon entering the Dull Headlands, we meet Ernest, who tells us that the bandits have moved from the arid Badlands and regrouped under a new leader who goes by the name Mad Mel. The Dull Headlands is a very short and sweet section of the game, but I personally really do love it, as this area is just one big Easter egg containing multiple references, but mainly tipping the cap to the Mad Max franchise. With the bandits moving into the area, they have overtaken a local watering hole, and a guy named Lucky has found himself the prisoner of these bandits, and it's up to us to go and save his ass, which is exactly what we do. Once saved, Lucky asks whether we could help reinstate the power to the fast travel network in the area so he doesn't have to risk running into more bandits and he can just teleport back to his friend Ernest. This is not an important or an outstanding quest in any way, shape or form, but as I mentioned at the start of the video, I do like it when developers try to justify game mechanics like respawning and fast travel with in-universe explanations. Just the fact that Lucky mentions that he can use the fast travel network means that anyone with a fast travel pass can, something that he also mentions is a thing. And it's just a normal thing on the world of Pandora and not just a game mechanic for us the player to use, which I think is lost on a lot of games. After turning the fast travel network back on and completing a few side missions in the Dull Headlands, Lucky asks us if we're going to deal with Mad Mal, which of course we're going to. So Lucky suggests that we should really send a message and let Mal know that we're coming for him, and to do so we should take out a few of his goons and vehicles while we're at it. As I mentioned, this area is one big nod to the Mad Max franchise, so of course the bandits in the area are riding around in vehicles causing havoc and chaos in the Dull Headlands, so it's time for us to do what we do best and lay some bandits to rest. It also just happens to be the case that the vehicles we're destroying have been stolen from a guy named Scooter, who I haven't mentioned yet, but we will meet him soon. All you need to know is Scooter is a legend and he and Lucky don't exactly get along. So we do question whether we are really sending a message to Mad Mal or Scooter, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Once our good deed is done, it's time to head down to Mad Mal's Thunderdome, not actually what it's called, but come on, I can make my own references here, right? And face off against the man himself. So, this is something I was going to bring up during the Sledge fight, but I thought it would be better addressed here. One big negative I see with the bosses in Borderlands is that they do seem to be designed with multiplayer in mind. Now, multiplayer Borderlands is when it's at its best, but let's be honest, I'm a YouTuber, I have no friends to play with, so here we are experiencing these fights solo. But even I remember having these issues all the way back in 2009 when the game was originally released. So to quickly touch on the Sledge fight again, Sledge wears a big welding helmet sort of mask to protect his head, which makes landing critical hits near impossible if you're in front of the boss. The idea here being, in a multiplayer setting, one member would keep Sledge occupied while the others move around behind the boss so they can score criticals, as the helmet only protects the front of his head, not the back. Mad Mal suffers from this multiplayer design mentality as well. The fight with Mad Mal takes place in a large arena with a bunch of vehicles racing around, and it's like a huge demolition derby just with rocket launchers strapped to the top of your car. Which again, in a multiplayer setting would be fine. The AI vehicles will tend to target whichever player is closest to them. When you're the only player, everyone is targeting you, and it can make this fight an absolute nightmare at times. I actually remember when I first played through Borderlands that this fight aggravated me so much that I ended up getting a sniper rifle and cheesing the fight from outside of the arena. Now, it is one thing that you can do that, but I don't think it was an intended workaround for people struggling on this fight. Now, this design choice doesn't really drag down many of the bosses, but the ones that it does affect, I feel like it really drags those fights down, and in some cases it makes them very unenjoyable experiences overall. But with that little bitch fit out of the way, and once Mad Mal has been dealt with, we can move on to New Haven finally. I did tell you that the Dull Headlands was a short and sweet experience, didn't I?
This is the 76th day. I was woken up, hoping I was having a reoccurring nightmare. We spent more than 36 hours earlier today relocating our campsite closer to our dig site, only to be ambushed by local wildlife that's hungry coming out of hibernation. Half of my staff was eaten alive, or killed by skags. I survived by hiding under a colleague of mine who was being devoured on top of me. His name was Carl. My emotions are deadened, and I grieve for none of them. In point of fact, the only emotion I felt was that of joy. I felt joy because his chair was always more comfortable than mine. I took his chair, and then I noticed the emissive glow on the rocks at the dig site.
Upon arriving in New Haven, we are contacted again by Helena Pierce, who tells us that for the safety of her citizens, she has to keep the road to Sanctuary closed for the time being, as to get to the Sanctuary we would need to cross the Salt Flats.
I'm transmitting to inform you that I've made a decision I think you won't like. As Administrator of New Haven, I am responsible for the well-being of its citizens. And in that capacity, I must keep the road to Sanctuary closed for now. Baron Flint's tribe and that infernal contraption of theirs are out on the Salt Flats, and I don't want citizens getting killed trying to get past them.
It is also a shame that the Salt Flats is as far as we go, and we never actually get to go to Sanctuary until Borderlands 2, but I still appreciate the fact that we at least hear about it. It goes to show that the world building was something that Gearbox wanted to focus on during development, and it isn't lost on me at least. While I am mentioning citizens and world building, that is something that I really do love about New Haven that I feel that Firestone sorely lacked. There are just random people milling about New Haven. They aren't there to hand out missions or for any other reason than to be set dressing and again build on that feeling that this is an inhabited planet. Until now, the only people we have seen other than bandits were the people we could get missions from, and it makes the early game feel a tad empty. The world building is great, and reading quest dialogue does give a sense that there are others living their own lives on the planet, but seeing is believing, so they say. And just seeing a bunch of random people scattered around New Haven goes a long way in that regard. We do also hear another announcement upon our arrival in New Haven, this one from Tannis.
Listen to this, mud dwellers. Skipping all the details that would confuse the lot of you, I have concluded that the vault is more than likely genuine. In addition to that fact, which has probably burned a hole in your brain, the vault can only be opened once every 2 centuries, and that time is about to arrive.
But we will catch up with her in a little bit, so first we need to go and meet Helena in person. Upon talking to Pierce, she knocks the Vault Hunter down a peg or two, pretty much telling us that the people are grateful, but that doesn't mean that anyone will bow down before us as if we are some savior. If I'm in New Haven, I have to pull my weight, which pretty much translates to running a few errands to help out the people and around town in general. Once we've got that done though, Pierce tells us that the vault is in fact not real, but if we do insist on chasing a fairy tale, that we should go and meet Tannis at her dig site that isn't too far from New Haven. While we are here in New Haven though, we can meet back up with a few familiar faces, those being Marcus from the beginning of the game. We also see that Zed has finally moved from Firestone now that Sledge isn't terrorizing the arid Badlands anymore, and we also finally get to meet the one, the only Scooter in the flesh. Before we do head off to go and meet Tannis, Scooter has a request for us. He received a call from his good buddy TK Baha and is a little bit worried about him and wants us to go back to the arid Badlands and pretty much carry out a welfare check. We like TK, he is a legend, so of course we'll go back and check up on him. He's probably just a little bit lonely now that everyone's moved out of Firestone and the stubborn old goat refuses to leave himself. I'll admit, walking in on this scene still makes me sad. We don't get to interact with TK too much, but in the short time we had with him, I really fell for his character. He was just a charming blind old fool that liked to crack jokes and not take life too seriously, which is a breath of fresh air on this planet, and seeing him hanging from that fan really knocked the winds out of my sail the first time I played through Borderlands way back in the day. And even now, I still hate walking into that house. He did not deserve to meet an end as brutal as that. I guess I have to tip my cap to Gearbox here, being able to endear an NPC to some players with so few quests and so little dialogue, and still invoke an emotional reaction is an achievement that shouldn't go unmentioned. Now that we have checked up on TK, we should go and break the bad news to Scooter before pressing on with our mission and meeting up with Tannis.
Day 119. I sat in the shower in tears for just under an hour. This is interesting, considering we haven't had water for days. I equate my ever-decreasing sanity with that of the population of my dig site. With the investigation of the symbols and glowing patterns at the site, we finally unearthed arguably certifiable proof of the existence of alien life having been here on Pandora. But this celebration was lonely, as I only have 2 colleagues left. And I'm not too fond of the fat girl, Shimei. I've been told that scientific discovery requires sacrifice, but I never understood what they meant until now. Day 172. The fat girl, Shimei, was crushed under an alien ruin that collapsed today. She didn't die right away and begged me to put her out of her misery as she choked on various fluids and bile. I hesitated because she was the last one alive that wasn't me. As she was choking and coughing and dying, I tried to enjoy the interaction, which I imagined to be a conversation, as I knew it was the last I would have for a while. I finally got around to smothering her so that I could continue my research. I could tell that she regretted the decision. The Skags have been waiting for this meal for a while. They will not go hungry tonight.
On our way to meet up with Tannis, we have the option to take another side mission to collect more of the echo logs Tannis recorded detailing more of her time on Pandora. This batch of logs covers Tannis finding irrefutable evidence of the Vault's existence and her creating a program to decipher the Iridian texts she has discovered, along with her mental state continuing to deteriorate to the point that she is now talking to long dead relatives and talking to the recorder as if it was a sentient being. Oh yeah, we do kind of learn the name of the alien race a little bit earlier in the game, but it doesn't really make much sense any earlier, so I just left it till now. But yes, the alien race that used to inhabit Pandora are called the Iridians. Anyway, the time to finally meet Tannis in person has come, and upon doing so, she tells us that the artifact we recovered from Sledge is in fact a piece of the Vault Key, which we already knew because the angel told us so. But there are more pieces that we need to collect to fully assemble the key. Tannis did have one piece of the key in her possession, but it and all of her underwear ended up in the hands of a dude that goes by the name Crazy Earl, who is actually voiced by Randy Pitchford, the co-founder and CEO of Gearbox. So it's up to us to go and meet up with this recluse and try and recover the artifact. He lives in a junkyard to the south, so that's our next destination. Just as it is with everybody else on this planet, we ain't gonna get anything for free. If we want the Vault Key back, we need to help out Earl with a couple of his own problems. Mainly clearing out some of the pests that infest the scrapyard and also getting some payback on a group of bandits that stole some explosives from him. Little does he know, dispatching critters and bandits is literally what we do best, so we're back before long, and Earl pulls a fast one on us, saying that he doesn't know what we're on about because he can't see no trespassers or critters in his junkyard, so why should he give us the alien thingamajig? Funny thing that there not being anything on the account of us already killing everything. Anyway, if we want our key piece, we're gonna have to go and get him some booze. Unfortunately, the booze that he wants is made by, you guessed it, bandits, and they don't like to share, so we have to go and politely show them the error of their ways. Let's hope if Earl gets drunk enough, he won't think of anything else he needs done and he just gives us the piece of the Vault Key. Off to Tretcher's Landing we go, as this is where the bandits that make the booze that Earl likes call home. I've always loved this map. It's a fun, tight map with bits and bobs hidden everywhere. It's just a fun map to explore, and also it's the first time in the game we really get to see any large body of water, which is a sight for sore eyes. Until now, we have really only seen barrens, wastes, or piles upon piles of scrap, trash, and ruins. It goes a long way in making Pandora feel more like a planet with a proper ecosystem and not just a sandbox we get to play in. No matter how many times I play through Borderlands games, I always find something new I've never noticed before. For instance, this stack of, reading material here. Anyway, another reason I love this map is because it holds one of the best Easter eggs in the game.
Patricia Tannis, Chief Scientific Advisor, Dull Corporation, Day 224. The only conversations I have anymore are with this echo recorder. I've developed a relationship with it. Some cycles I sleep with it, and others I make it stay outside of my tent. My waning ability to discern logic from insanity is becoming cumbersome. I've been translating Eridan writings, in between arguing with the recorder. You went off for a few hours during my last sleep cycle. I heard you sneak out. If I were to pontificate, I would infer that the Eridan writings show a class-based society that was quite capable of both leadership and of armed conflict.
Yes, that was Tannis, riding a fish. Why? Who knows, but it exists, and it's cool. Once we've got Earl's booze and return to him, he fesses up and tells us that he was just using us as he no longer actually has the vault key. Another bandit leader who goes by the name Crom took it off Earl's hands about a year before our arrival. So, if we really want it back that badly, we're going to have to go and fight our way into Crom's Canyon and face off with the guy ourselves. So, on another wild goose chase we go, because surely it's not just going to be as easy as waltzing into the place, right? Now, I know I did go on a big rant earlier about the weapon system in Borderlands, but the loot is really what makes the game so enjoyable and replayable. You never know what you're going to get or when, and that really does help to build anticipation, waiting to see what pops out of the next chest or drops from the next guy you kill. Sure, 99% of the time it will be something that you either leave or pick up to sell, but this system opens the game up to multiple different forms of farming, which I didn't really touch on earlier. You can find a couple of decent areas in the game with a few weapon chests you can quickly run through, open up, save and quit to reset the map and do it all over again. You can farm bosses you've previously killed to try and get their dedicated drops. Heck, if you want, you can save and quit and reload the game over and over again in New Haven to refresh the shop inventories for a chance at getting good guns. It's not the most exciting, but it's one of the most viable options available. Another thing this system allows is just for getting lucky. This is a clip of me finding my first legendary during my first playthrough for this video. I was just doing some random side quests not worth mentioning in the synopsis, just driving around, running stuff over, and as I turned to head back to the objective, there it was, that sexy beam of golden goodness just laying there on the ground. I don't even know what I ran over to get it to drop. But hey, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that it did drop, and even better was that it was a revolver, which was one of the main weapon types I was using during this playthrough. It's these little hype moments that make Borderlands such a fantastic game to me. Anyway, you know what else is a nice surprise? For once, we don't actually have to jump through any hoops. We can literally just waltz right into Crom's Canyon. Oh, and would you look at that, poor little Crommy Wommy is deady weddy already. This is actually one of my favourite boss fights in the game if done the intended way. Crom himself really isn't too difficult, but to make up for this you have to make like it's dodgeball and dodge, dip, duck, dive and dodge your way through the canyon, making your way up to Crom's platform, fighting your way through all of his henchmen along the way, which to me makes for a pretty fun experience. You can always take the other route and get a powerful sniper, or in my case, a revolver, and just destroy his turret from the entrance of the canyon, which is also viable, but I feel like it takes away a lot of the fun of this fight. But with Crom dead and the next piece of the vault key in our hands, we head back to Tannis and hand it on over.
As I work, I spend the majority of days having conversations with people that are not there. 2 days ago, I explained to my mother how the translation program I was writing would greatly help me understand exactly what all this Eridan text I've been attempting to decipher actually means. My mother has been dead for 16 years. She was never actually interested in science to begin with. I'm unsure if I'm quite to the point of no return, but my stubbornness, which I got from her in the first place, will keep me here putting up with her until I find exactly where the vault is. Or until I drive myself so far off the edge, I do not remember why I was doing this in the first place.
She then tells us that she has picked up faint traces of another Iridian artifact out on the Trash Coast, but travels to and from, you guessed it, are controlled by another mob of bandits. At least Tannis thinks that this time she has a contact that we can speak to who might be able to sneak us in. So let's go and see if we can get in there without wiping out another small city's population to do so. I doubt it, but a boy can dream. Upon meeting Tannis's contact, we find out that he is the brother of a bandit that has taken over a small settlement called Janestown. He genuinely does seem sincere, telling us that his brother has turned Janestown into a hive of scum and villainy, but it wasn't always that way. Good people used to live there, but his brother and his thugs chased them all out, and when our contact Taylor protested his brother's decisions, he was exiled. Taylor tells us that his brother is too far gone and he needs to be removed. We burst into Janus Town, guns are blazing, doing what we do best until we find Janus. Oh, did I forget to mention that Taylor's brother's name is Janus and he changed this little settlement's name after he took over? No? Oh well, now you know. Anyway, Janus is certainly not in a talking mood, so unfortunately there will be no peaceful solution and we have to put him down. Returning to Taylor, he thanks us for taking care of his brother, as there was no way he could have hurt his own brother, which I can understand. Taylor claims that this will be the starting of a new era and that soon Janus Town will be known as Taylor Town. Okay, a little bit ominous, but maybe this dude really does want what's best and just wants to restore the town to its former glory, and I guess with his name on the town, he gets all the glory? Sure, it's fine with me. Well, that seems to be wishful thinking, because Taylor then asks us to go and speak with his right-hand man, Eric Franks, who we can find in New Haven, quote, keeping an eye on that Pierce bitch. This is kind of one of the first times in the game I really wish there were multiple ways to tackle some missions. This one is the biggest offender by far, because anyone who reads this dialogue can see from a mile away what's about to happen, and it would be nice to be able to make up our own mind and feel like we have a little bit of agency and just kill Taylor then and there. But apparently the Vault Hunter doesn't have two brain cells to rub together. Tannis was right about us after all. Because we do exactly as we're asked, and we let Eric know that Janus Town is clear. Eric tells us that he has a storage container just outside of New Haven and that our reward for helping Taylor can be found in said container. So being the absolute morons that we are, we head on over and oh wow, who would have guessed it, it's a trap. We get jumped by a few goons who instantly regret their life choices, and then we head on over to Pierce to tell her about the mess we've made. She tells us that sure, Janus was no angel, but Taylor will pose an even greater threat than his brother ever did, and that we caused this mess, so we have to go and clean it up by taking out Taylor as well.
Day 457. This is exciting. I think I might strip naked and run around to celebrate, but I'll do it during the dim cycle, for fear of prying eyes. Before overloading and melting 4 of my computer's 13-qubit operators, my program was able to decipher quite a bit more than I had been able to understand before. It will take a few days to fix, but I was able to find many repeated instances of an event that takes place every 200 years. It's repeated many times with a symbol that looks not unlike a circle with an upside-down V in it. It's possible that this is the vault. And something about the vault happens every 200 years. Tonight, for dinner, I will have eggs. Day 481. It's true. It's all true. My program did it. Program. I'm now certain that the vault is here, and that the symbol has something to do with opening it. I've checked and triple-checked my findings, and it all seems to make sense. It looks like there are extreme measures to keep the vault secure, but that it can be opened every 200 years. The vault's contents must be extremely valuable, maybe better than the Atlas tech. But I cannot reveal this information to anyone just yet. If I'm wrong, I'm done, and if I'm right, the suits will claim it. I must find the vault myself. Find.
Besides, it was actually Taylor who was blocking our path to the Trash Coast, and once he is dead, his hacked claptrap unit should allow us passage once it has no one to answer to. So again, we do what we do best and wipe out the rest of the family from the face of Pandora and make our way to the Trash Coast, and one step closer to another piece of the vault key. Upon arriving on the Trash Coast, we receive another message from our guardian angel telling us to make sure that we are prepared because the next challenge we are going to face will be a big one. As we traverse the Trash Coast, we can periodically hear an ominous roar coming from somewhere on the map that gets louder and louder as we make our way towards the waypoint marker. As we round a corner to a massive opening, we finally get to see what's been making these terrible roars and screams and learn a little bit more about the ecosystem of Pandora in the process. Before we can reach the next piece of the vault key, we have to take out the Rakk Hive that stands before us. Now, this is a simple boss with very telegraphed weaknesses, but I think it's still a great boss purely based on the storytelling elements of it. Realizing that all of the mounds the Rakks have been emerging from are one of these gigantic lumbering monsters adds to an ominous feeling walking around Pandora, knowing at any moment one of these hives could emerge and start rampaging, causing absolute chaos and leaving a path of destruction in its wake. That said, it's still no match for us, and before long it's taking a nice long nap and we collect our third piece of the vault key.
Day 493. Dull Corporation just shut down their mining operations here on Pandora. I think they are insane. Or that is, whoever is making the decision is insane. Iridium mining on this planet has been hugely lucrative for Dull, and has funded my project. It's been especially profitable given how low their labor costs are. I wonder what Dull will do with all the unpaid convicts they've been using to work their mines. I wonder if any of them will be my friend. What? Why are you always so jealous of me getting new friends?
We return to Tannis, who is excited to have another piece of the vault key and tells us that she knows where the final piece is. The leader of all bandits on Pandora at the moment, the head honcho has it in his possession, and it's a name that we've heard before. It's Baron Flynn. He currently resides on a massive mining rig out on the Salt Flats, but before we can get to the Salt Flats, we need to go and rescue the claptrap unit that operates the gateway to and from. We all know the deal by now. The local bandits are doing what they do best, getting in our way, so off to save our little claptrap buddy we go. Upon arriving in Old Haven, we see a troubling sight, where all of the bandits have been relentlessly slaughtered in a scene that makes what we've been doing look like a kindness. We cautiously edge our way further into Old Haven to find that the military branch of the Atlas Corporation, the Crimson Lance, are the culprits behind the scene we have just walked into. While the Crimson Lance have been a story element that has popped up here and there, they have kept to the shadows for the most part. The biggest interaction we've had with them till now has been Commandant Steele directly contacting us after the Sledge fight to threaten us. If the story I've told so far is anything to go by, we didn't hand over shit, so I'm guessing we aren't exactly friends, and they confirm that by shooting on sight. But we came here for a reason, and we are going to rescue our little claptrap buddy, which I'm sure is going to make Commandant Steele super happy. I will say, I do feel like the Crimson Lance could have had a bigger presence in the main game. They do get a whole DLC to expand on their story, but we won't be going over the DLCs in this video. That said, there were a couple of points throughout the game where I feel like the Lance could have been utilised a little bit more to add to the foreshadowing of what's happening now and what's still to come. The big moment that stands out to me is a side mission in the Dull Headlands called Ghosts of the Vault, that takes us down into a cave and is the first time in the game we actually see any real remnants of the Iridian race on Pandora. The cave is full of Iridian architecture and a few automaton guardians left behind to guard the ruins. Before we make our way into the main cavern though, we have to deal with a handful of bandits which I feel is a little bit out of place. I think it would have made more sense and had more impact overall, especially with Atlas being the ones pursuing the alien technology, if we had a few Crimson Lance soldiers down in the cave engaged with the Iridian's guardians, and that being the scene that we come across and having to deal with both the Crimson Lance soldiers as well as the guardians would have had more impact overall and built on the story being weaved between the Atlas Corporation and their pursuit of the Iridian technology on Pandora. And very little really would have had to change. It also would have helped combat the feeling of the Crimson Lance coming out of nowhere towards the end of the game. If the Lance really has the sort of presence on Pandora the game implies, I just feel like we should run into them a little bit more than what we actually do.
Day 578. I haven't slept in 3 days. I just ate 6 bugs in alphabetical order, starting with Carabus auronitans and ending with a dessert obstetrix undulata. The information I've uncovered from my automated deciphering has me closing in on the location of this event. An event I believe to be the opening of the vault. Echo Recorder and I are not together anymore. But I wish him the best, and we remain friends, so that I can keep recording these messages. He agreed, because we need to complete what we set out to do, and document the intensive search for the mythic vault. It's not a myth. It's real.
But back to the story for now. We save our little claptrap buddy, turn some Crimson Lance soldiers into a fine crimson mist, and head on over to the Salt Flats. As we arrive, we are taunted by Flint, and find out that he does in fact reside on a massive bucket wheel excavator, but that don't impress me much. Hey, look out, a Shania Twain reference in my video? What's next? We take out a few of Flint's goons and some more of Scooter's rides, before making our way into the encampment set up around the base of the mining rig. We continue to take out more of Flint's goons as we make our way through the camp towards the elevator that will take us up to the main deck of the mining rig, where we face off against Flint and a small army of psycho bandits.
Day 616. Sometimes I wish I had never been given this assignment and never come to Pandora. Dull has asked me to leave. The transmission said it's time to go. Everyone has left, except the criminals who they've let loose. They won't be my friends. So I had decided to return to leave as Dull has ordered, but then I found something. I think it is the key to the vault. It proves the vault is real, and that it's here on Pandora and that it can be mine. I also learned that, by my calculations, we are near the 200th anniversary of the last vault opening. Within half a year, approximately. If I leave now, I will never make it back in time. I will stay. Maybe one of the convicts will be my friend.
I will say, in my playthrough, I had some pretty damn strong weapons by this point, but this fight can be an absolute nightmare if you go in underprepared. The sheer number of bandits can easily overwhelm you, and the two big ass bruisers that you have to face off against before you can actually fight Flint are absolute bullet sponges. And while you're running this gauntlet, you have Flint firing rockets at you the whole time. But we're the hero of this story, so before long, Flint and all of his men are no more, and we make our way up to claim the last piece of the vault key, only to find out that we've been had. Tannis has sent us on a wild goose chase. Flint never had a piece of the vault key, and in fact the vault key is already complete, and Tannis has handed it over to Commandant Steele. So, not only does Steele have the vault key, she also decides it's time to eradicate us and make good on her threat from earlier by sending in a small army of Crimson Lance soldiers to try and take us out, all while turning off the EchoNet system to suppress any communication on Pandora while she makes her way to the vault.
There is no fourth key fragment. Tannis has joined us, and we now have possession of the completed key. She used you to get what she wanted. You've ignored my orders, but I'll cut you a deal. Leave the planet now, and we won't pursue you. Do yourself a favor. Take advantage of my generosity while you still can. Any further disobedience will cost you and the citizens of this planet dearly.
We are once again contacted by the Guardian Angel, who for the first time seems a little more human than all-knowing angelic figure. She first tells us that the Lance are about to make an unpleasant discovery and learn a harsh lesson, but her tone quickly turns from smug and serious to seriously concerned, saying that it wasn't meant to happen like this.
The Crimson Lance are about to make an unpleasant discovery and learn a harsh lesson. Oh no, this wasn't supposed to happen. Stand by.
This is Commandant Steele of the Atlas Corporation Crimson Lance Starbomb Brigade. Be advised, in preparation of upcoming special operations of the Lance, I have ordered the Echo Network shut down. Any attempt to circumvent our control will be met with punishment of death. Do not test me, or we may shut down the commerce grid as well. This is the only warning you will receive.
We also hear a broadcast from Pierce, who is panicking over the whole situation, saying that all hell is breaking loose all over Pandora before the EchoNet finally gets shut off, cutting her broadcast short.
What the hell is going on? Has Steele gone insane? They're shutting down the ecosystem, and now we're getting reports of weapons fire all around Sanctuary. It's a war zone. Sanctuary is getting pounded out there. They're sending distress signals to anyone who'll listen. But if they shut down the Echo, I'll be unable to arrange for...
So shit has well and truly hit the fan. But as I've said multiple times, we are the hero of this story, and we certainly aren't going to let some crazy archaeologist and some corporate screws steal our glory. So, it's time to take back what we've been working so hard to find, and if we have to go against the entire Atlas Corporation to do so, then so be it. We leave the mining rig to find that the Crimson Lance have moved in already to try and stop us in our tracks, but it's alright, they don't matter. See, they're dead already. And now we are charging onward to get our vault key back, and we aren't going to be gentle about it. We're going in, guns blazing, straight through the back door, not a drop of lube.
Day 653. Today is my birthday. I've been alone for an incalculable amount of time. A convict accidentally crossed over into my encampment this morning, and I allowed him to look about before I shot him in the back several times. I was immediately filled with regret upon doing this, because the human contact, no matter how awkward, would have been nice. I've decided his name was Leslie, and he had a troubled childhood where people would make fun of him for having a girl's name. And the torment eventually led Leslie to a life of crime and debauchery. There was a tattoo on his bum that looked not unlike the name Patricia. I might have imagined the tattoo. The experience compelled me to move the vault key fragment I found so that it can be safe. It's extremely important, so I've given it to the man known as Crazy Earl. He's not crazy. He doesn't like people. The vault key will be safe with him. I also gave him my underwear.
After making our way through a lengthy cave system full of spider ants, we find ourselves inside of what looks to be a shipping container with an echo device sitting on top of a crate. As we approach the device, the container is suddenly lifted to reveal we are in the middle of a Crimson Lance facility, with Steele standing in an observation room above to deliver the always super corny line, "Death to all who oppose us," before turning and leaving presumably to head to the vault, leaving us to fight off 3 high-ranking Lance soldiers, but they are still no match for us, and once they have been dealt with, we press on further into the Lance facility. Before making it too far though, we stumble across Tannis, who is locked up in a jail cell. She tells us that she never intended to betray us, and we have every right to hate her, but sending us after Flint was Steele's idea, and she just went along with the plan because she thought that we'd have fun. Considering her complete lack of people skills and her mental state, I'm actually willing to give her the benefit of the doubt on this one. We do like killing en masse after all. She also tells us that it is most likely too late to go after Steele or to open the vault, but we can get the Echo Net back up and running considering she is the person who pretty much invented it. I guess we can at least do one last good deed if we can't get to the vault in time. So Tannis hands us a note with instructions on how to get it back up and running, and without any other options we agree to fix the Echo Net. Who knows? The Guardian Angel said she couldn't see us with the Echo Net down, so once it's up and running again, she might be able to help us in some way, but it does also beg the question, if she needs the Echo Net to communicate, then who exactly is she? Though, that's a question for another time. We get the Echo Net back online without too much trouble, though we do run into more of the Iridian's Guardians who will happily attack us if we get too close, but it more seems like they are trying to stop the Crimson Lance for some reason, almost like they don't want anyone reaching or opening the vault. I guess we are technically trying to steal their shit, but no time to think about that because as soon as the Echo Net is operational again, Tannis and Angel both contact us saying that there isn't much time, but there is still time to catch up to Steele and to get our vault key back.
Whoa! I can see you! I don't know how you did it, but I can see everything again. You've surprised me this time. Listen, there is no time to waste. You must immediately reach the vault. Go, now!
Tannis also wouldn't mind if we kill that Steele bitch as payback for imprisoning her and stealing the vault key, which, let's be honest, she didn't even need to ask. Tannis also shows us exactly where the vault is located, so with that we're off to try and catch up to Steele and the ultimate prize we've been working towards. We race back across the salt flats and descend through a huge Iridian ruin, fighting both Lance soldiers and more Guardians along the way, descending deeper and deeper into Pandora, kinky. The closer we seem to get to the vault, the more of a Guardian presence there is. It's almost as if, get this, the Guardians are guarding the vault, trying to stop anyone from ever reaching it. But silly extinct aliens, we haven't come this far not to at least sneak a peek at what the Guardians are guarding and what they've got hidden in there. Am I right?
Day 684. I seem to be unable to leave camp anymore. I've collected all of the information I need to be able to find the vault. I'm overcome with terror and instantaneous paralyzation upon any attempt to leave my confines. I believe I have some kind of psychosis. Whatever it is, I'm a prisoner of my own jail, and I will not be able to find anything without help from an outside party. I will put out feelers to see if I can get someone on this rock to grant me assistance. Perhaps I can send an off-world message to attract some vault hunters. Some company would be lovely.
Before long, and after fighting our way through a pretty sizable army, to get there, we have made our way to the big goal at the end of the yellow brick blood-stained road. Let's just hope Steel wasn't too far ahead of us and had time to empty it already. We enter to find Steel bad guy monologuing, which as we all know always ends well.
You have failed to listen to Commandant Steele. I've warned you time and again, yet you persist on ignoring my orders. The contents of the vault are rightfully the property of the Atlas Corporation. But you, you belong to me. Get your team ready to go inside.
Oh, and would you look at that? She's now a shish kebab. Wait, what? What the actual fuck is in the vault? Oh, nothing much. Just one of the most disappointing boss fights in gaming. Now, I love Borderlands, and I'll give my overall thoughts a bit more here in a second, but it has to be said that even back in 2009, and especially by today's standards, this fight is pretty terrible. There's no sugarcoating it. I remember going into this fight way back in the day thinking that we were going to have a big face-off against Steel herself and a bunch of Lance idiots before entering the vault and being rewarded with either some overpowered alien tech or a lore dump explaining who the Iridians are or what they were doing on Pandora. So I do at least have to give props to Gearbox for subverting expectations, but with that said, a large static blob with ridiculously telegraphed weak points that scream "shoot me here" just feels so and the is only emphasized by the fact that we don't even get to exact our own revenge on Steel. Even that is taken away from the player. I would have much preferred that Steel was the penultimate showdown we had to face off against before entering the vault, allowing the player to get their revenge on Steel, and upon retrieving the vault key from her, we get to open the vault ourselves, only to release the monster that had been imprisoned inside. I don't think this would have completely fixed the ending, but I feel it would have given the player more of a sense of agency and a sense of responsibility to actually kill the destroyer, as we would have been the ones to actually free it in the first place. Anyway, with the destroyer dead, we do get a nice little cutscene that gives us an answer, but also more questions as to who or what the Guardian Angel actually is.
You opened the vault! I'm sorry I couldn't warn you about what was in it. But for you to be there to stop it, it couldn't have unfolded any other way. You did well, and your actions haven't gone unrewarded. The key won't open the vault for another 200 years, but I'm sure Tannis will pay you quite the fortune for it. Now go. I'll be watching.
We zoom out from Angel talking to us to see a Hyperion satellite orbiting Pandora, but before we can ask too many questions about that, we're back down on the planet's surface watching Claptrap do Claptrap things before suddenly getting zapped and seemingly reprogrammed into an interplanetary ninja assassin Claptrap. But that's a story for another time. One last big nitpick I have with the ending of Borderlands is that once we open the vault, kill the destroyer, and hand the vault key back to Tannis, nothing changes. We can go back to New Haven and talk to all of the main characters like Scooter, Pierce, Zed, Marcus, and everyone is still just bitching about the Crimson Lance and seem none the wiser. Now, I know in the final mission dialogue with Tannis, we agree to keep it on the down low, but it still feels so anticlimactic. I at least feel like Zed should have had a couple of snide remarks telling us that he told us that the vault was just a fairy tale and we were fools for chasing it. Maybe even some from Marcus pressing us to tell him why we stopped looking for the vault, and maybe even implying that we did find it and are trying to keep all of its contents to ourselves. Just something would have been better than nothing. The ending really does just feel empty and meaningless when all is said and done. It's just a really lackluster ending to what was a solid story all the way up until the end. All in all, do I still think Borderlands is a good game? Heck yes. Now, I will say there was a lot of nostalgia going into this project, and the game is certainly not the masterpiece I remember it being. There are a lot less cutscenes than I remember. Some of the game balance is all over the shop. The colours feel extremely washed out and desaturated, and at times the game just feels extremely clunky. But with that said, I played through the game 3 times for this video. One of those might have been because I completely balked all of the recordings of one playthrough, which were completely unsalvageable, but I still had a ton of fun with each playthrough, and one of them was actually with a couple of friends, which, as I've said, is where Borderlands really shines. So, Borderlands wasn't just a shooter. It was the start of a genre revolution, a game that embraced chaos, comedy, and co-op gameplay like nothing else in 2009. It may not have invented the looter shooter genre, but Borderlands is certainly the game that everyone remembers as the one that got the formula right and launched the franchise into what it has become today. If you're someone who is watching this and has never played the Borderlands series, or someone thinking of doing another playthrough before Borderlands 4 is released, I'd say it is well worth the time to do so. You certainly won't be disappointed. The art style is timeless, the characters are fantastic, and the moment-to-moment gameplay is still an absolute blast. I do really want to make one of these videos for Borderlands 2 and 3, hopefully before Borderlands 4 is released, so if you enjoyed this trip back to Pandora and want to catch those, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when they do go live, but above all else, thank you for watching, and with that being said, I've been Titanic Llama, you've been watching a video, and I'm out.
Day 718. I woke up outside the camp today. I don't know how I got outside, but I seem to have overcome my inability to leave. This will be my last recording before I scatter the echo recordings as far as I can. My echo recorder has clearly gone crazy, and if I'm not careful, I too might go insane. I will come back and resume my research when I have rid myself of this 2-timing recorder. This is Patricia Tannis, signing out.